just a quick side note before we start the video. I just wanted to take a moment to say, first of all, obviously, make sure you guys subscribe, hit the bell notification and all that. But other than that, I just wanted to quickly say, I just want to take a little moment here to kind of say, first of all, as you can probably see, the channel is going through a few changes. We got a new intro, new intro music and all that. I also, of course, wanted to point out the fact that the channel's name has now changed because kind of makes sense that Marshall Gamer didn't really fit anymore. I made this channel 2 years ago, but obviously that name doesn't quite fit anymore. So take a moment to say welcome to Marshall Official is the new name of this channel, and as you saw in the title screen as well. But with that, let's get right into the video. Welcome to Marshall Official. With the presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump coming up in just 3 days, it is already the 8th. That will be happening on the 10th. We're going to be making a new update based on all the newest polls from every state to see where they currently lie based on all the newest polls. And with that, let's begin with California. And we do have new polling from California. We can see from the 3rd to the 5th, we have a new poll that has Kamala Harris up by 24% in the polling averages. She now leads by 24.5%. Obviously, no shock there. The state is extremely blue, and it's going to remain blue. That is simply not going to change. With that, let's go to Oregon. In Oregon, we still have no changes whatsoever. Kamala Harris remains up by 5%, and that remains our only poll from this state. So, with that, she will have a likely chance of winning the state of Oregon. Let's go on to Washington. Washington, again, we don't have any new polling. The newest poll we had was back in May and has Biden up by 8%. Biden, of course, is not in the race anymore. It is now Kamala Harris. But we have no new polls. We'll just have to assume that Kamala Harris is up by a similar margin. So we will also be putting Washington as a likely state. I should probably take the time now to mention, I should have done this first, that we do have some updates on the national polling averages from Trump and Harris. We can see here, Harris at one point back on the 1st was up by 1.9%, but has now dropped down to just 1.4% lead over Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is starting to catch up in the national polling averages. With that, let's go to Nevada, our very first battleground state. In Nevada, we have an interesting situation here with the polling average has Kamala Harris up by 0.6%. We can see here we do have a number of polls. We have this one by Bloomberg has it up by 4%. Of course, we know that Bloomberg is very well known for overestimating Democrats. That is simply true. But nevertheless, we didn't have Fox News and CNN, which has Harris up by 2 and 1% respectively. We then have this one conducted by The Hill and Emerson, which has Harris up by 1%. But this newest poll has Trump up by 1%. So it's very close. It's less than 1% for either side. So it's hard to really say how this state's going to play out. We also saw another poll, it's not on here, but there was another poll that had it listed as even in Nevada. But the fact that this state that Trump lost in both 2016 and 2020 is that close, and it was close in the elections. Both times it was 2.4%. Even though the polling averages had Biden and Clinton up by a lot more than that. So the fact that it is this close means that there is a chance, however slim, but it is a very real chance, that Donald Trump can win this state. And in the recent poll, in the newest poll conducted from the 29th to the 31st of August, does have Trump up by 1%. So that is something we have to take into consideration. And with that, because this is based on the newest polls, not polling average, but my next video will be the polling average. This one's the newest polls. So with that, we will be giving the state of Nevada to Donald Trump. Let's go to Arizona, our next swing state. And we do have some important polling from Arizona. Arizona got really competitive not that long ago, but then since then, we just got these new polls that have come out by even CNN has Trump up by 5%. And we have The Hill, 3%, 1%. These are all conducted around the same time. This newest one has it listed as a tie. But this state was just a little bit ago way more competitive. I mean, look at this. Arizona, back on August 15th, or sorry, the 17th, Harris was leading with 0.2%. Donald Trump had a slim lead, but now he is starting to actually run away with it. Arizona, which was super close not that long ago, Trump is starting to run away with it. And yes, the newest poll does have it listed as a tie. The polling average has it listed as a 1.6, and the poll before that has Trump up by 1%. So clearly, nevertheless, we are going to be putting the state as not lean, but likely for Donald Trump, because it is over that 1% region. So with that, Arizona is really starting to shift towards the right now, and that is important. So while we're at, let's just go ahead and fill in all the safe states for Donald Trump. That means all these states right here. And we will get to Nebraska in a second. While we're at it, let's talk about Texas. And yes, we do have new polling from Texas, and I know that, and the reason why they're doing this is definitely because of the fact that the debate is coming up. They want to get the polls in now so you can see where the thing lies before the debate, and then we'll see how it changes after the debate. Remember, we didn't have any polling from Texas not that long ago, but we do have polling now, and we have two new polls, one from the 31st and one from the 5th, just 3 days ago. And we do now have a polling average for Texas. And we can see here it's clearly likely for Donald Trump. It is not going to change. The state of Texas will go to Donald Trump by a strong margin. So with that, we will be giving the state as likely for Donald Trump. With that poll, it is definitely going to go to him. Nebraska, let's just go to Nebraska, and if this he will win the state. Donald Trump will win the state as a whole. He will also easily win the first and third district, while the last district will be lean. Not it could go Donald Trump, but as for right now, it remains lean for Kamala Harris. So it could go to him, but it will remain for Kamala Harris for right now. Let's go to Colorado. Colorado, we don't have any new polling, unfortunately. The newest poll that we have has Harris up by 6%, and that was way back in January. So we just don't have anything to really say about this state, so we don't have anything to assume. We'll be leaving the state as likely for Kamala Harris. We just don't have anything from that state. Let's go to New Mexico. New Mexico is another one. We don't have any new polling from the state. The newest poll that we have has Biden up by 7%. Biden, of course, is not in the race. We're just going to have to assume that Kamala Harris is winning by a similar margin. So we will be awarding the state to Kamala Harris by a likely margin as well. With that, we now have the whole western part of the country filled out. While we're at it, let's just go ahead and fill in Alaska and Hawaii, but we both know what they're going to be. Anyways, let's start off with our next swing state, and that is Montana. I'm sorry, I mean Minnesota. Let's go to Minnesota now. Montana, we haven't got any new polls over the last couple of days, but we do have a new poll from the state, and the newest poll that we do have has Harris up by 5%, so it will be likely for Kamala Harris. That is not surprising whatsoever. So we'll be leaving the state as likely for her. Now, while we're at, let's just go ahead and fill in some of the states that we know will be safe for Donald Trump. We know Illinois will be safe for Kamala Harris, and for Donald Trump, he will easily win all of these states. There's just no talk whatsoever from any of these states. And now from there, let's go to Wisconsin, our very first major swing state. This is an extremely important state. So in Wisconsin, we do have a new poll, and just like Trump is starting to run away with Arizona, we see Harris is starting to run away with Wisconsin, despite the fact that Wisconsin is probably the one that Donald Trump has the best chance of winning, except for maybe Pennsylvania. Out of the three blue wall states, Wisconsin was one that we could say we can have a good chance of going to Donald Trump. Same with Pennsylvania. Michigan is very liberal, however, but we can see here we do have a brand new poll from this state, CBS News, from the 3rd to the 6th. So this is just 2 days ago, with Harris up by 2%. We see the poll before that had Trump up by 1%, but this is based off the newest poll. So based off the newest poll, we have to give the state of Wisconsin to Kamala Harris by 2%. So Kamala Harris might possibly be running away with the state of what's going on here. Kamala Harris might be running away with the state of Wisconsin. Let's go to Michigan now. In the state of Michigan, we have again. This one is not surprising. Wisconsin was surprising, but Michigan is not, because we know with Michigan is by far out of all the important swing states, the ones that are like undecided, we know Michigan is definitely the most liberal. It is definitely the one that has the highest chance of going to Kamala Harris, and we can see here polling does reflect that. A poll from the 30th has it listed as a tie, but the newest poll, again by CBS News from the 3rd to the 6th, has Harris up by 1%. So with that, we would put the state as lean Democratic as well. Let's go to the state of Ohio. In the state of Ohio, we do have a new poll from this state. From the 3rd to the 5th, we can see Trump is up by 10%. It is just not a competitive state anymore. Trump's running mate is from Ohio, and we know for a fact that this state is just not going to go anywhere near Kamala Harris. So with that, we're just not going to waste time with it. We're going to be giving the state as likely for Donald Trump, even though it's probably even going to be more than that. But anyways, that is the situation with Ohio. It's just not competitive anymore. It is going to definitely go to Donald Trump. Let's go to Pennsylvania now. We know that Pennsylvania is an extremely important state. This is the deciding state in the whole election. And we can just see here, look how insane this is. Tie. The RCP average is a tie. It's not even 0.1 for anyone. It is a tie. CBS News has it as a tie. And CBS is fairly liberal. They're reliable, but also liberal. So they might overestimate Democrats a little bit, but not that much. They have listed as a tie as well. CNN also liberal, but they're also very reliable. Bloomberg very liberal and not so reliable. They have Harris up by 4%, but CNN liberal but also reliable has it as a tie. Emerson a tie. CBS News a tie. RCP average a tie. So it's actually kind of insane what we're looking at here. That it's this close in Pennsylvania, and this is the deciding state. This is the state that will decide this election. I might honestly have to put in the thumbnail tie because that's what this election is really going to be in this with this state because it's this is I can't even fathom this when I first saw this I was shocked. I was really shocked when I saw this. If we look down here, you see, look at this. Harris leads here, Trump is ahead, then Harris takes over, and then boom, it's a tie, and it's been tied for at least a couple days now. This newest poll by CBS has, I just said, is from the 3rd to the 6th, so that's only 2 days ago. But because this is the newest polling average video, we have to just go with we have to put something on the map. So the newest poll that actually has somebody winning is by the Trafalgar Group, which is lean red, but nevertheless they are somewhat reliable. Anyways, and they have Trump up by 2%. That might be a little bit too high of a margin, but nevertheless we'll just go with it. And because it is at 2 percentage points. No, I'm gonna leave this. I was gonna say the way I usually do it is that if it's 1%, if it's below 2%, like 1.9 to 1% to 0%, I'll put it as lean. If it's 2% up to like 12%, I'll put it as likely. And if it's anything over 12, it's safe. Basically, is what I usually do. But because even though it is at 2%, because this state is just so insanely close in so many polls, and even the RCP average is a tie, I have to leave it as lean, even though it is at that 2% region. So we'll be leaving it as that. So that's Donald Trump is on track to maybe win Pennsylvania. He is running away with it in Arizona. It is now a likely Republican state, and Wisconsin and Michigan are definitely trending towards Harris. So that is the current state of things with all the swing states except for Georgia. Let's go to Georgia right now. Okay, in Georgia, it's not quite the opposite of Arizona because Trump is running away with it in Arizona. Harris is not running away with it, but we can see she is winning, but it is close. The last poll that we had that had Trump up in the state was all the way back on the 14th, and Trump was up by 4%. But since we had Bloomberg not very reliable. They are definitely overestimating Democrats, but they are at least worth noting because they're not horrible. But Fox News, they're more reliable and definitely lean Republican. They have Harris up by 2%. Even The Hill and Emerson, Harris has Harris up by 1%. Insider Advantage has it as a tie. That's your newest poll. So the newest poll, it has labeled as a tie. But the RCP average is by the minuscule margin 0.1%. That is just like Pennsylvania when I made my very first election prediction. I had Pennsylvania was up by Trump for 0.1%. So that's how close the state has become. Georgia is becoming similar to Pennsylvania with how insanely close it is. Because the newest poll is a tie. But because the RCP average was at 0.1%, we have this other poll that is also 1%. We will be putting the state as lean Democratic. For the first time, we would be awarding Georgia to Kamala Harris by a slim margin. Let's go over here to Florida for the heck of it. All right, here in Florida, we do have some brand new polling. We can see here in Florida, Trump is up by 5% according to the newest poll. It was trending downwards recently with 10 to 7 to 5 to 3. But in this newest poll, we have that Trump is now up again by 5%. He is leading in an RCP average of 6%. So Trump is clearly the favorite to win in Florida. Still, that is no surprise. Florida has just become such a Republican state. So with that, we'll be awarding the state to him by a likely margin. Let's go to one of our last swing states. I was going to say the last one, but these other two are a little bit less competitive, but North Carolina is still very competitive. We're going to go to North Carolina as one of our few remaining swing states. And in North Carolina, we don't unfortunately have any brand new polling from the last few days. The last one we have was just from the August on the 28th. Trump up by 1%. And we do see that there are quite a consistent number of polls that have Trump up by 1%. And the RCP average, Trump is up by 0.7. We have this Bloomberg poll down here that has Harris up by 2%. That just goes to show what I mean. Like Bloomberg is just not reliable. They're just simply too overestimating Democrats. So clearly this is not true. Trump is the favorite to win in North Carolina by a lean margin. All right, let's go to Virginia, another one of our swing states. But this one's going to be a little bit less competitive, but competitive nonetheless. In Virginia, we unfortunately don't have any brand new polling. The last poll we had was back on the 16th of August by Roanoke College. Nevertheless, it is quite close. It only has hair's up by 3%, but it is close enough that that the state could go either way. But with that, we will be awarding the state to Kamala Harris by a likely margin. It's going to be close, but not. It's going to be close, but not too close. But either way, Donald Trump could still win the state by a lean margin. Let's go to some of our northeastern states. Let's start with New York, the biggest one. We don't have any brand new polling from New York. The only poll we had was conducted back on the 1st of August, and it has hair's up by 14%. Not a surprise, but it is, and at the same time it is a surprise in the sense that this state should not be that close at all. It should, yes, it is still double digits, and Trump is definitely not going to win this state. But at the same time, look at 2016. Even Clinton, who lost to Trump, won the state by 21.3%, and in 2020, Biden won the state by 23.1%. So the state has become more competitive, but nevertheless, if it is still definitely going to go to Harris. But give it 2 more years, the state could become a swing state. If this trend that we see here does continue for 2 more election periods, so over the next 8 years, then it's very possible that in 8 years, and the election coming up in 8 years, this state could be one of the battleground states. It could go Republican if this trend does continue. It probably won't, but the possibility is there. So that's how crazy that this state has flipped that far away from where it was. It was above 20%. Now it's close to 10%. So, but nevertheless, it's still going to be a solid state for Kamala Harris. Barely, but it will remain solid. All right, let's go to some of these other states that we already know what they're going to be, but one of them is a battleground state, and that is New Hampshire. Let's start with New Hampshire. Again, New Hampshire, we don't have any brand new polling, unfortunately. We have the last one we had was back on August 19th was when the last one was conducted. Harris is up by 5% in New Hampshire. It could, but it's going to be very close. You can see here in 2016, it did go to Biden by a good margin, but in 2016, it almost went to Trump by 0.3%. So this state is really the only one in this northeastern region that really could go Republican, and it almost did. But so for right now, we will be leaving it as a likely Democratic state, but it could very much so flip the other way. And I usually don't look at the polling from any of these other states, but we'll look at a few of them. Let's see if there's anything from Vermont, since we never looked at that before. So let's look at Vermont for the heck of it. And see, this is why we don't even bother looking at these, because as you can see, there is absolutely nothing from this state. So let's just not even bother with that. We're just gonna do our usual, and the usual is to just fill in these states based off what we always see, and they're just all simply gonna go blue. Every single one of them. Delaware will be a little bit more competitive. It will be a likely state. Nevertheless, and New Jersey. New Jersey and Delaware will be a little bit closer, but the rest are all going to be solid. There's just no question about it. All of these are going to go solid states. However, except for the state of Maine. Now, I'm not going to pull it, but I did take a look at it. The state of Maine as a whole will almost guaranteed go to Kamala Harris. And of course, the first district will as well. However, the most recent poll that we have from Maine says that Kamala Harris will win the second district by a lean margin. That simply is not true. However, Donald Trump is going to win the first district or the second district of Maine. He is going to win it by probably a solid margin. So that whole poll is probably just completely botched. There's just no way that that's going to happen. So, anyways, with that being said, this is your election. Donald Trump will, according to all the newest polls, will win the election with exactly 270 electoral votes. This is why Pennsylvania is so insanely important. Pennsylvania is so important because if he wins Pennsylvania, he does not need to win Georgia. Kamala Harris can win Georgia, but if Donald Trump takes Pennsylvania, then he won't have to win Georgia. Or you can look at it like this. I'll just do this real quickly right here. If let's say he wins Georgia, he won't need to win Nevada or Arizona. Oh wait, no. Oh, it'll be a tie. Sorry about that. Oh, that's because we know that Donald Trump's gonna win the second district. We know he's gonna win this. So just flipping this real quick. What's going on here? Yeah, we know he's gonna win that. So there's just no doubt about that he's going to win the second district. But according to the newest poll, it's leaning towards Harris, but it's really not. It's going to go Republican. But if he wins Pennsylvania, he won't have to win Nevada or Arizona. So he cannot win Arizona or Pennsylvania. Or sorry, he cannot win Arizona or Nevada and still lose Georgia and win the election. So that just goes to show you why Pennsylvania is so important. It's so important right now that it is by the slimmest of margins leaning towards Republican, at least in the newest polling, but otherwise it's a tie. So that's why I just want to put that out there, show you why it is so important and why this state is as important as it really is. But anyways, this is your map for your newest update according to all the newest polling. Stick around. The debate is happening in just 2 days, so pay attention to that. Alright, and with that, guys, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.